أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقاتلوا المشركين كافة كما يقاتلونكم كافة واعلموا أن الله مع المتقين إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر يضل به الذين كفروا يحلونها عاما ويحرمونه عاما ليواطئوا عدة ما حرم الله ويحلوا ما حرم الله زين لهم سوء أعمالهم والله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين يا أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله اثاقلتم إلى الأرض أرضيتم بالحياة الدنيا من الآخرة فما متاع الحياة الدنيا في الآخرة إلا قليل إلا تنفروا يعذبكم عذابا أليما ويستبدل قوما غيركم ولا تضروه شيئا والله على كل شيء قدير إلا تنصروه فقد نصره الله إذ أخرجه الذين كفروا ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن إن الله معنا فأنزل الله سكينته عليه وأيده بجنود لم تروها وجعل كلمة الذين كفروا السفلى وكلمة الله هي العليا والله عزيز حكيم انفروا خفافا وثقالا وجاهدوا بأموالكم وأنفسكم في سبيل الله ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون لو كان عرضا قريبا وسفرا قاصدا لاتبعوك ولكن بعدت عليهم الشقة وسيحلفون بالله لو استطعنا لخرجنا معكم يهلكون أنفسهم والله يعلم إنهم لكاذبون صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Almighty Allah says, إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله. Indeed, the number of the month according to Allah are 12 months as Allah has ordained in his book, in secret tablet. Lawh Mahfuz is called secret tablet. Yawma khalaqa as-samawati wal ard, ever since the day he has created the heavens and earth, minha arba'atun hurum, and there are 4 sacred months out of them, and there are 4 prohibited months out of them. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ, this is the straight religion, this is the straight way going to the destination. فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ, so don't wrong yourself in these months. وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً, and always wage a war against the pagans, the idolaters, the polytheistics, idolaters, pagans. These 3 words are used for the people believing in more than one God or worshipping other than Allah. They are called pagans, idolaters, and polytheistic. Polytheistic, pagans, idolaters. Kama yuqatilunukum kafa, as they always fight against you. Wa'lamu anna Allah ma'al muttaqin, and believe properly that Allah is always with the God-fearing people, with the pious people, with the virtuous people. Virtuous, God-fearing, pious people. And note it well, bear in mind, and know very properly that Allah is always with the virtuous, God-fearing people, pious people. إنما النسيء زيادة في الكفر. The postponement, adjournment, or the delay of the sacred months or prohibited months is an excess instance of the infidelity, as an additional example of infidelity, rejection of the faith. This is another example, instance of infidelity. It is an additional, an excess instance of infidelity. Postponement in the prohibited months, and delay in the prohibited months or sacred months. This is another additional or excess example, instance of infidelity. This is also infidelity.
The Western people have no idea about these 4 months.
This is not their religion. This is religion of Abraham, and they used to be respected in the olden days of ignorance as well. And since this verse deals with the pagan of Mecca, therefore their geographical situation, their historical situation is also observed. Because whenever and wherever a thing is discussed, the local people cannot be eliminated from that discussion. This address was made to the pagan of Mecca because it revealed in the 9th year of emigration of the Holy Prophet, 9th year of Hijrah, and they used to postpone it according to their necessities, according to their choice. I shall elucidate the fact, inshallah. The adjournment in the sacred months, in the prohibited months, respectable months, is an additional example of the infidelity, whereby the people disbelieving are misled. The disbelieving people are misled, whereby disbelieving people are misled, misguided, and deviated. To be misguided, or to be deviated, or to be misled. These 3 words are appropriate for this occasion, for this eve. يحلونه عاما ويحرمونه عاما. They allow 1 month this year and prohibit it in the next year. They allow it, they permit it, they legalize it. They legalize this month in this year, and they prohibit it and forbid it in the next year. لِيُوَاتِئُوا إِدَّةَ مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ, just to make up for the number of the prohibited months which were prohibited by Allah, Almighty Allah. وَيُحِلُّوا مَا حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ, so that they may legalize what has been prohibited by Allah Rabbul Izzat, by Allah, Almighty Allah. زُيِّنَ لَهُمْ سُوءُ أَعْمَالِهِمْ, and the evilness of their deeds, actions and works was adorned, was decorated, was beautified. Wallahu la yahdil qawmal kafirin, and Allah does not guide the rejecting people, the disbelieving people. Disbelieving people are not guided by Allah. Allah does not give them the guidance. Allah does not provide them with the proper guidance, because on account of annoyance of Allah they are not eligible to be properly guided. Almighty Allah says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ma lakum idha qila lakum unfiru fi sabilillahi ithaqaltum ila al-ard. O believers, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, O believers, O you who believed, ma lakum, why, idha qila lakum unfiru fi sabilillahi, when you are asked to march forth on the way of Allah, you cling to the earth. Means you don't travel, you don't march forth. Issaqaltum ila al-ardi, you cling to the earth, you cling on the earth. Araditum al-hayat ad-dunya min al-akhirah, do you prefer the life of this world to that of hereafter? Do you prefer the life of this world to that of hereafter? فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. So the goods of this life are not but very small, very least in the life of hereafter. إِلَّا تَنْفِرُوا يُعَذِّبُكُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. If you don't march forth, Allah will inflict the painful chastisement on you. Allah will afflict you with the painful chastisement. Inflict and afflict, these two words are used. Allah will inflict you a painful chastisement on you, or Allah will afflict you with the painful chastisement. وَيَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ, and will substitute an other community for you, and will substitute an other community for you, and he will replace you with some other community. These two words can be used. Allah will substitute the other community for you, means they will work on behalf of you. Instead of you, those people would be chosen. Allah will substitute the other community and other community for you, or you would be replaced. Allah will replace you with some other community. Allah will replace you with some other community. وَلَا تُضُرُّهُ شَيْئًا, and you will in no way harm him, and you would not be in position to harm Allah even the least, and you will in no way harm him. And you will not be able to endanger Allah. You cannot inflict any type of harm on Allah. You cannot afflict Allah with any harm. You cannot impose any detriments or any harm or any loss to Allah. Wallahu ala kulli shayin qadir, and Allah is omnipotent, means Allah has got a full power over everything. The one word for many is omnipotent, and Allah is omnipotent. Allah has got a full power over everything. He can do whatever He likes. Nobody can debar Him. إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ. If you don't help him, means if you don't help Muhammad Mustafa, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. If you don't help him, it will make no difference whether you help or not. Whether or not you help Muhammad Mustafa, Allah has already helped him. Whether or not you help Muhammad Mustafa, this is the proper word. Whether you help or not, you help Muhammad Mustafa, you may or may not help. Allah has already helped Muhammad Mustafa, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. It makes no difference whether you help him or not. Understand?
Full understand. Full understand.
This very, very accurate language.
Either you help him or not, it doesn't matter. Because Allah has already helped him.
Yeah. Whether or not you help Muhammad Mustafa, no matter whether you help him or not, no matter whether you help him or not, it makes no difference whether you help or not.
But it makes difference for you.
Yeah. فَقَدْ نَصْرَهُ اللَّهُ, because Allah has already helped him. إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ, when the infidels, the rejecting people, the disbelieving people, tried to exile him, to banish him from the country, when he was second of the two persons, when both of them were in the cave of Sur. That cave is called Sur. Sur. Yeah.
Sur.
Sa-wa-ra. Sur. فَقَدْ نَصْرَهُ اللَّهُ, Allah has already helped him. إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, when the infidels, when the disbelieving people tried their best to exile him from the country. Sani Yasrene, when he was second of the two persons. Is Huma fil Ghare, when they were inside the cave. Is Yaqul li Sahibihi, when he was saying to his comrade, his very loyal and faithful companion. Comrade, C-O-M-R-A-D-E, comrade, very faithful and loyal companion. He was Siddiq Akbar, radiyallahu ta'ala. May Allah be pleased with him. لِصَاحِبِ لَا تَحْزَنْ, don't grieve. Nothing is to be worried about. إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَنَا, verily Allah is with us. فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ,
Allah is the third.
And Allah sent down His consolation, His peace, His tranquility, His satisfaction. Sakina can be interpreted as consolation, peace of mind, tranquility, and satisfaction. These are the common words.
But this include all of that.
Alehi, on him, وَأَيَّدَهُ بِجُنُودٍ لَمْ تَرَوْهَا, and Allah supported him with the army, with the forces you don't see them, you could not see them. وَجَعَلَ كَلِمَةَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا السُّفْلَى, and Allah made the word of infidels abased, disgraced, degraded, humiliated, and Allah made the word of infidels, the words of disbelieving people, as abased, disgraced, degraded, humiliated. These words can be used. Abased, disgraced, and degraded, and humiliated. Wa kalimatullahi, hallelujah, and the word of Allah is always supreme, superior, and inviolable. Supreme, superior, inviolable, which cannot be disobeyed. Wallahu Azizun Hakim, and Allah is Almighty, all wise. Infiru khifafam wa siqalan wajahidu bi amwalikum. March forth, whether light armed or heavy armed. Wajahidu bi amwalikum, and exert your utmost, and try your best, and make your efforts, and endeavor as much as you can. Endeavor and strive to make efforts, to exert one's utmost. Exert your utmost and try your best and make efforts and strive and endeavor as much as you can. Bi amwalikum wa anfusikum, with your money and lives. Fi sabilillah, in the way of Allah. Zalikum khairul lakum, this is the best way of your life, provided that you are knowing person. Provided that you know. If you know it, with the condition of your knowledge, this is the best way which is being taught to you. لو كان عرضا قريبا وسفرا قاصدا لاتبعوك. Allah, Almighty Allah addresses his beloved Prophet. He says, if there had been an immediate prospect of gaining, ardan qariban, immediate prospect of gaining, if they had expected the instant benefit, financial benefit, monetary benefit, and worldly benefit, if there had been a prospect of immediate gaining, was safaran qasidan, and easy journey, lattabuka, they would have followed you. Lattabuka, they would surely have followed you. Walakin ba'udat alayhim ash-shuqa, but the long journey and the difficult journey burdenized them. He made them heavy.
Yes.
Made them too heavy to make journey.
Yeah, it was too hard for them.
Yeah.
Too hard for them.
وَسَيَّحْلِفُونَ بِاللَّهِ لَبِسْتَطَعْنَا لَخَرَجْنَا مَعَكُمْ, and they will swear by God. They will take the oath by God. They will vow. Nevertheless, they would vow. They would swear by God. They would take oath by God and would say, لَوِسْتَطَعْنَا لَخَرَجْنَاكُمْ, if we had been able to travel, we would have marched forth along with you. يُهْلِكُونَ أَنفُسَهُمْ, they are incurring the destruction on themselves. They are creating the destruction for themselves. They are incurring the destruction on themselves. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ إِنَّهُمْ لَكَاذِبُونَ, and Allah knows very well that they are liar. Kazibun.
That means liar.
Liar.
Yeah, liar. Kadibun.
Liar. So this is the verbal translation of the passage I recited before you. Here, the practice by the pagan of Mecca was also indicated too, which was resembling with the character of the Jews and Christians, as they altered and introduced the amendments in the divine law just to fulfill their own requirements, just to satisfy their own ambitions and desires, and they molded the divine law according to their own will. So in the same way, the pagans of Mecca also tried to mold the system of Allah according to their own desire. So this is an exceeding of the limits which are prescribed by Allah for a human being. If a person interferes in the system established and systematized by Allah, it means that he is trying to be called a God, to be called an Allah, because these are the prerogative rights of Allah which cannot be violated and which cannot be interfered, which could not be interrupted. The interruption in this system is really violating the boundary of divinity. It means that he is trying to be a deity, he is trying to be a God, because these are the exclusive rights of Allah which can not be exercised by other than Allah. The system of month, the system of calendar, the lunar system or the solar system, and the changing of day and night, and system of months, and system of week, and system of sunset, and system of sunrise, these things are managed and systematized by Allah Himself. If a person tries to interfere in these matters, it means that he is trying to assume the power of divinity, power of God. Assume is going to take, assume, ASSUME, assume. Just like the new DC has assumed the charge of DC. The new Prime Minister has assumed the charge of Prime Minister. Means he held the office, he took the power. Means this is assumption. So he is trying to assume the power of Allah, and the powers of Allah are totally inviolable, which cannot be changed, which cannot be twisted and distorted, and they will remain in the same order, in the same system. Here Quran says, since 4 months, the Zilqa'dah, Zilhajjah, Rajab, Muharram and Rajab, the 4 months were believed to be respectable and inviolable. Nobody was allowed to wage a war against any enemy. Even the war would be stopped in those days. If supposing there was a war between 2 tribes or between more than 2 tribes, and all of a sudden these months set in, so they had to stop their war, and they would have to wait for the expiry of these months. During these months, one was not competent to wage a war against the enemies, and he was not allowed to take the revenge on his enemy. Retaliatory actions were also postponed up to the expiry of these months. But when they thought that according to the lunar system, the rotation system caused the changing of the seasons, sometimes the pilgrimage was observed in the winter, sometimes in the summer, sometimes in autumn, sometime in the spring. So such things were very burdenizing for them, very hard for them, too hard for them to practice. Therefore, they wanted to change the system according to their own will, and they used to extend the time. They used to postpone the sacred months, the inviolable months, the prohibited months, according to their own will, according to their own necessity. So this type of extension and postponement and adjournment was highly culpable action by Allah Rabbul Izzat. Therefore Allah says, from the time of creation of the world and universe, the number of months was always 12, and it was ordained by Allah. It cannot be changed, it cannot be altered. So they are trying to twist and to disfigure and to dislocate the system of Allah. So these things are systematized by Allah. They cannot be interfered. They cannot be interfered. They cannot be interrupted. Allah says, Minha Arbatun Hurum, and these 4 months were declared to be prohibited by Abraham, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And according to that system, the Christians and Jews should also observe the same idea, because it was initiated by Abraham, and Abraham was the real grandfather of Jacob, because Jacob was son of Isaac, and Isaac was son of Abraham, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. And anything initiated and originated by Abraham ﷺ is regarded to be a binding authority for the Jews and Christians as well. But I don't know why they don't observe.
They don't know it.
They don't know. They don't. Okay.
But it was in the books of Ibrahim. This sacred form.
Yeah.
It was in the book of Ibrahim.
Yeah. The mammoths, the pamphlets revealed to Ibrahim ﷺ was containing the subject. Mammoths, small booklets.
Yes.
So for Ibrahim and Musa, the mammoths, the booklets, the pamphlets.
Have you seen these books? I haven't seen.
No. I never saw them. But these are referred by the prophetic traditions that they were Not only tradition, but Quran. Quran says, قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. So pamphlets, mammoths, and booklets of Ibrahim, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, were quoted in the Holy Quran. Therefore, a Muslim has to be believed in the existence of those pamphlets. And these things were believed in and admitted and agreed to by the consensus of the Muslims and non-Muslims, because the pagans, the idolaters, the polytheistic of Mecca were also agreed that these 4 months was forbidden by Ibrahim, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Otherwise they had no need to change, to alter, to postpone, and to adjourn. So this adjournment was criticized by Allah Rabbul Izzat. If they had not believed in the prohibition of these months by Ibrahim alayhi salam, they would have said, we are not responsible for these things. We are not abiding by these rules, because these rules are being prescribed by you. So we are not to observe your rules. It means that when they did not say anything in response to Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam,
their rules.
It means that they were believing in the originality and initiation of Ibrahim alayhi salam about these months. Quran says, Zalika Deenul Qayyim, means the inviolability and sacredness of and reverence of these months is a straight religion. Means these should be respected and these months should be honored, and their honor and respect cannot be violated. This is a blasphemy and sacrilege, and any person committing the sacrilege or blasphemy in regard with them would be punished by Allah. Quran says, فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ, and don't wrong yourself.
This means we have to check out when these months occur so that we can respect them.
Yes, we do want to respect them.
Yeah.
In these,
I have no idea when these months occur.
Well,
I have read these passages sometimes, but I don't know when they occur.
There are many things which are being neglected by the Muslims as well.
Yeah.
But being a Muslim scholar, no, you are not an ignorant person. You are a scholar. Therefore, your duty is to note very well, and then communicate to the other people. And it is your duty to abide by these things, and to make the other abide by these things. And Quran says, فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ, and don't wrong yourselves. It means that violation of the respect of these months is resulted in the harm of one's own self, because Allah gets angry with him and Allah penalizes him for the cruelty imposed in these months. If a person violates the respect and reverence and sacredness of these months, he will be penalized by Allah in this world as well, in the next world as well. It means that as much as you do something wrong in these months would have to be suffered by you on the judgment day and in this world as well. As a previous experience, in 36 years they had been violating the sacredness of these 4 months according to their own retaliatory actions, for their robbery, for their deputies, for their murdering, for their financial affairs. So for such a necessities, they used to violate the sacredness and reverence of these months. Therefore, they were penalized by Muhammad Mustafa himself. They were badly crushed in the field of Badr Sharif. They were badly retaliated in the battle of Mecca, and they were conquered ultimately. and they were defeated in the field of Hunain, though the people participating in Taif were resident of Taif, participating in the battlefield of Hunain, but they were allies of the Meccan people who were recently defeated by Muhammad, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. But originally they were their allies, they are supporters, they belonged to the same religion. They were idolaters, polytheistics and pagans. Therefore their sympathies could not be gained by the Holy Prophet, but all of these things were gained by force of Allah. Otherwise they were badly against Muhammad Mustafa, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Allah says, if you violate the sacredness and reverence and respect of these months, it means that you are wronging yourself. You are imposing your cruelty on yourself. It is an atrocious and cruel step towards your own self. You are crushing yourselves. Means you cannot avoid the meeting with these type of results. Quran says, وَقَاتِلُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَةً. Here this section was added under the necessity, under the law of necessity. Means these 4 months are inviolable for you as well, sacred and very respectable, and they are forbidden for the fighting against anyone. But if they launch a war, if they wage a war against you in these very months, and they exercise the same adjournment or postponement of the sacred months just to facilitate, just to legalize their launching of war, so under these circumstances, what is to be done on behalf of you? Quran says you are also allowed to wage a war. You can counter attack, you can encounter them. This is permissible for you, because you are not initiating the war and you are just responding them. So responsive attitude is permissible for you as well. You can encounter them, and a counter attack is permissible for you. You are permitted to answer their question. Initiation is prohibited for you, because these 4 months are sacred one. But if they wage a war against you in these very months, you are also allowed to encounter them. وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. And note it well that Allah is always with the pious people, with the virtuous people. Means if you try to create the pretext, you just pretend they are waging a war, and you yourself are willing to wage a war, so this is against the piety. You must bear in mind that alternation of power is always experienced in the world. The Lord who has transferred the power to you can return the power from you as well. Therefore you should not exceed the limits. You should always remain inside of your barrier. You are not allowed to jump over the barrier. These are barriers fixed and systematized by Allah. Therefore their respect should be observed. Quran says, إِنَّمَا النَّسِيُّ زِيَادَةٌ فِي الْكُفْرِ. So this postponement and adjournment of the sacred months is another instance, another example, an additional example for the infidelity. Means the postponement, as it has already been explained and elucidated, that no one has a God, no one has a right to interfere in the rights of Allah. These are prerogative rights of Allah, which cannot be violated, which cannot be questioned. Why Allah systematized the months like this? No, you will have to bow down in front of order of Allah, and you are not allowed to jump over the barrier fixed by Allah. All of the barriers, all of the boundaries erected by Allah are to be observed, and if a man violates the boundaries of Allah, the restrictions of Allah, the conditions of Allah, then he will have to suffer the consequences. This postponement, adjournment, and extension of the time by postponing, by adjourning the sacred months, this is an other example of infidelity. It is an excess instance for the infidelity, and the infidel people, the disbelieving people are misled by this fact, because they are causing the confusion. They begin to believe that this is an easy job. It is permissible to interfere with the power of Allah, or to interrupt in the special power of Allah. These are special powers of Allah. The total universe, the total cosmicity, and the total cosmology was systematized according to the will of Allah, which cannot be debarred, which cannot be interfered, which cannot be interrupted in. Quran says, what is the way for they are misleading? Quran says they are being deviated, misled, misguided, because they allow a month in 1 year and they forbid the same month in the next year. So this type of postponement was not allowed. They were not competent to change the system of Allah. When they are extending the time of viable months, permissible months, and they postpone and adjourn the time of the sacred months or prohibited months, it means that they are violating the limits fixed by Allah. And this is exclusive and apparent and conspicuous and quite explicit type of infidelity, which cannot be interpreted with the other way. لِيُوَاثِرُوا إِدَّةَ مَا أَحْرَمَ اللَّهُ. They legalize and illegalize a month, the same month, in 1 year and the next year respectively, just to make up for the number of the sacred months. So this type of pretension or pretext or excuses are not acceptable in the court of Allah. They try to utilize and to exercise their power for the postponement of the sacred months, just to legalize the sacred months, the prohibited months, for their personal ambitions and desires. So they should not respect their personal desires and ambitions and violate the law of Allah. Legalization or illegalization, validation or invalidation of the months is exclusive right of Allah or prerogative authority of Allah, which cannot be interfered. زُيِّنَ سُوءُ أَعْمَالِهِمْ. This is very heinous type, highly contemptible, and it should be hated. This type of attitude, this type of behavior should be hated, should be condemned, should be despised. But instead, they are very happy with their attitudinal affairs, their process and their attitude and the behavior towards the divine law is highly contemptible, and it should be despised and hated. It causes an acute discomfort. But their practices, their deeds, their deeds and actions and works were adorned by Satan, decorated by Satan, and beautified. They are very happy. They say that we made such alterations. I altered the law. I changed the law. I amended the law. I enforced the new ordinance. So, exercise of such type of power is a cause of their pride in this world, and they should not be proud of having such a thing, because these things are highly culpable, and one will be penalized by Allah, and he will have to suffer the consequences of his heinous character as well, because no one can be exemplified in the world who was not penalized. Such persons are bound to suffer the consequences of their character. One should show the penitence for such a behavior. Their duty is to repent for their sins instead of being proud. Quran says, Wallahu la yahdil qawmal kafirin. Since they are proud of their evil deeds, such a person cannot be guided. Such a person are misled and deviated and misguided by their attitude. And Allah never enables them to see the proper path. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ma lakum idha qila lakum unfiru fi sabilillah. Here the verse number 70, the verse number 37 was a culminating point of the lecture concerning the infidels of Mecca, because this surah contains three discourses. The first one was revealed in the last, but it was not arranged here chronologically according to have been arranged, should have been systematized in the last of the surah, because in respect of revelation it is in the end of all the other lectures, but on account of its current importance it was put first, because when Siddiq Akbar radhiyallahu anhu had already been sent as a leader of the pilgrims towards Mecca, and he had come out of Medina Tayyibah and he was staying at Zul Hulaifa, the president of which is Bir Ali, where the pilgrims wear their shrouds, their pilgrimage garments, ihram. So these verses and sections were concerning with the behavior of the pagans of Mecca. Therefore it was arranged and they were systematized in the front of this surah, from verse number 1 up to verse number 37. These verses are concerning with the attitude of infidels of Mecca. Now the direction of the discourse changes from here, from this verse. Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ma lakum idha qila lakum unfiru fi sabilillahi isaqaltum ila al-ardi. This second discourse was revealed when the Holy Prophet was getting ready and preparing his army, his forces for the fighting against Caesar of Roman Empire. And Quran says, "O who you believe, what is before you? What is the reason for you? Why, when it is said to you, march forth in the way of Allah, you clung to the ground." Means when the Holy Prophet asked the people to march forth along with him for the fighting against the Caesar, so they should have gone on the first call, and they began to hesitate. They were too busy, they were engrossed, they were engaged in their personal work, domestic affairs, household affairs, in the family matters, in their personal matters. They were looking after their crops, their fields, because in those days the crops were going to ripen, and the crops of the palm tree was also about to ripen, and it was scorching heat in Arabia. Therefore, they did not thought it to be appropriate for them to march forth under such circumstances, when the crops were about to ripen and the date fruit was also about to ripen, and they were busy in their business, in their trade, in their personal activities, and these were enough excuses on part of them to adduce in court of Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam. Quran says, what is the emergency before you for which you could not march forth? Means this dealing should be put on the priority list. The first priority goes to the Holy Prophet and his precepts, and all of the other matters, personal matters, the farms matter, the agricultural matters, the gardening matters, the business matter, the trading affairs, all these things are with the secondary importance. The first priority goes through the Holy Prophet, and you are not allowed to prefer your family, to prefer your children. This is why the Quran has been dealing in the previous verses. La yuminu ahadukum hatta akuna ahabba alehi min walidihi waladihi wan nasi ajma'in. Means if you don't love the Holy Prophet more than everyone in the world, you cannot be included in the Muslim society. Kul in kana abaukum wa abnaukum wa ikhwanukum wa ashiratukum wa azwajukum wa ashiratukum wa amwalun iqtaraftumuha wa tijaratan takhshawna kasadaha wa masakin tardawnaha ahabba ilaykum min Allahi wa rasulihi wa jihadan fi sabilihi fatarabbasu hatta yati Allah bi amrih wallahu la yahdil qawm al-fasiqin. In the verse number 25 of this very surah, where the love of the Holy Prophet was emphasized and intensified for all of the Muslims, and if he cannot prefer the love of the Holy Prophet, the love for the Holy Prophet to his father, to his sons, to his brothers, to his wives, and to his near and dear ones, and to his trading wealth, and to the properties earned by himself, and the residential houses. If he cannot prefer all Nabi Karim ﷺ to all these things, he cannot be included in the Muslim society. Now, the importance of love for the Holy Prophet appears here. Unless one loves Muhammad ﷺ more than everything in the world, he cannot be properly and sincere Muslim. Now, do you understand the point? The context of the Holy Quran is always to be observed. Means this is a main object of this speech.
Otherwise, you never get the view.
All of the thing in your purview should be neglected, and you should concentrate your eyesight on Muhammad Mustafa ﷺ. Look here, Quran here asks the reason for which they could not be able to participate in the fighting. Quran Majid has got an introductory to this question. Allah has already explained that the love of the Holy Prophet is to be preferred to everything in the world. If they had the love for the Holy Prophet preferable to everything in the world, they would not have remained behind. Their remaining behind shows that there was something more beloved to them, which they could not leave. If they had, and this is a sign of their hypocrisy. Hazrat Siddiq Akbar radiyallahu anhu was not behind Farooq Azam, Usman Ghani. Hazrat Ali was left by Holy Prophet himself. He insisted to go with him. He said, Ya Aliyo anta minni bimanzilati Harun min Musa. O Ali, your position in regard with me is just like that of Harun to Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. As he went to Tur to receive the Old Testament, and he left his real brother to look after his community. In the same way, I am leaving you behind me to look after my community, and I am going to fight against the Caesar. So this similarity was applied on Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. But he was not happy to remain there. But on account of precept of the Holy Prophet, he had to remain there. And all of the sincere Muslims accompanied Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam, and Hazrat Abu Khasma and Abu Zar, they were also left behind, but they could not remain there. When the caravan, the army of the Holy Prophet had marched from Medina Tayyibah towards Tabuk Sharif, and they had covered a long distance, they could not help walking after Muhammad Mustafa alayhi salam, until he was engaged, he was busy in the fighting in Tabuk Sharif in certain areas, with certain tribes, with certain clans. When Nabi Kareem alayhi salam said, Kun Aba Zarrin, Kun Aba Khasma, two persons were visible there. Nabi Kareem alayhi salam, be Abu Khasma and be Abu Zar. Some certain scholars say that they were Abu Zar and Abu Khasma, and the land was shrunk by Allah, and they reached there very soon, quickly. But most of the Muslim scholars, who are very reliable scholars, just like Imam al-Nawawi, just like Imam Mufakkir ibn Arabi, and Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti, he says that they were not Abu Khasma, they were not Abu Zar, but it was miracle of the Holy Prophet that they were changed into Abu Khasma.
To substitute them.
To substitute.
If Allah will take some other ones instead of you.
Yeah. Just so to substitute for them. And the Abu Khasma and Abu Zar were replaced with those persons. And there was no difference. They were really the same persons. So this is a speciality of the Holy Prophet. This is why Imam Jalaluddin Suyuti rahmatullah alayh writes in the book Khasais Kubra. He says that this is a miracle of the Holy Prophet, that they were transmigrated. Do you know transmigration? Transmigration is just like the club of Moses, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was changed into snake, and its reality, its nature was also changed. In the same way, the reality of those persons was changed, and they assumed the form of Abu Zar and Abu Khasma. This is called a transmigration. Kalbe Mahiyat.
Kalbe Mahiyat.
Kalbe Mahiyat.
Kalbe Mahiyat.
Mahiyat means the reality and the nature of someone is changed.
That's what we're looking for.
Isaqaltum. What is the reason for you not to march forth in the way of Allah, but instead you clung on the ground, you clung to the ground? Araditum bil hayat ad-dunya min al-akhirah. Did you prefer the worldly life to that of hereafter? Means that should be chosen, that should be preferred. This life is mortal one. Mortality is revolving around you. Sooner or later you will have to die. But the next life is permanent, perpetual, everlasting, and eternal one. فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. So the goods of this world are not but a small thing in the market of the other world. Just like you have got a money which is not exchangeable in the other country, and if you go there with that money, that would not be exchanged. It means that money is just like stone. You cannot use it as a money. Means the goods of this life are just a coin of outdated, which cannot be exchanged. إِلَّا تَنْفِرُوا يُعَذِّبُكُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. The previous attitude was persuasive, and this is imperative. There are two policies.